I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings,
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
I've been sending talent to WWE for their tryouts, but very few guys have made it. But I think there's something wrong with that, because I've sent some great talent to them.
Yeah. I always meet them too. I always meet the guys. So at the bodybuilding shows and stuff, I'll see the biggest kid. I remember at the Arnold, I see this big kid, and he's walking. You can tell he's young in the face, and he's walking over to me, and he comes up and he stops in front of me. He goes, "Road," and I'm like, "Edson." It's like, I'm friends with Ed Connors. I go, I already knew that. When you say that name, nobody knows. I mean, half the people, I did a podcast, and people were like, "Man, Mel, we never knew that about you. We've known you 25, years." They didn't know me back in that day, John. They didn't know that. Right. I never say
Road,
that.
you just don't look like a Mel.
Right. People ask me all the time now that I do the podcast and stuff, and they say, "Man, how did you get that name?" It's funny because one of the back in the day, one of the Angels, I was 17 years old, and he was at a bike shop, and I pushed his bike. He needed to start, so I pushed him to you jump on the bike, hit it in first gear, pop the clutch, and he goes, "Hey, don't push me through the wall, okay?" And I said, "No, we'll get you going. Get on the bike." I push him and stuff. He comes back and he goes, "What's your name?" "Kid." He goes, "What's your name, kid?" And I go, "Mel." And he goes, "Melvin?" And I go, "Yeah, named after my dad." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "You don't look like a Melvin." He goes, "You look like that guy from that movie, The Road Warriors." He goes, "Wait." He goes, "What was his name?" I go, "Mel Gibson." Go figure, right? Yeah. He goes, "Okay, that's what I'm calling you. I'm calling you Road Warrior." And then the warrior part dropped off, and the road thing came into life. And that's where that name came from, man, for all them years.
That's really ironic that Mel Gibson was the Road Warrior. Yeah. And that was, again, that was a fantastic movie. But if they let me cast people, I could have upped it a notch.
Yeah, you knew the characters, Ed. You knew the characters. It's funny because people say, "Oh, when they see me and Terry or something like that, they'll be like, oh, he copied Scott Steiner. He looks like a Scott Steiner or something like that." They say about me, and I laugh in my head, and I'm like, man, I was rocking this look before Scott Steiner was.
Rod, that I knew, I'm the one that told Scott Steiner to do the Fu Manchu mustache.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I knew him and his brother, who I really liked. They were on the road with Sting and Ultimate Warrior in the early days.
Baby face too, because they didn't have no hair on their face, John, back then. Scott had no hair. He had the mullet and clean facial hair, But
I said, if you have the mustache like that, you'll look meaner, tougher.
Yeah.
And he did it, and he dyed it in kind of a funny fashion. But no, that was Scott and Rick Steiner. His brother was an incredible athlete. They were Olympic wrestlers from Michigan.
True wrestlers,
and they're only 5'10". They were your height, but they were fantastic wrestlers and had a great look. And Big Papa Pump, But no, I said, grow that mustache to look tougher, because he had a baby face.
He had a baby face, yeah. So I laugh. I'm like, I just say to myself, I'm like, I was rocking that look when I was 20 years old. I had the facial hair. When I was 16, 17 years old, because you had to be 21 to get in the club back then. And when I first got around, the guy that brought me around, that sponsored me into the club, he's got killed. He's on the tombstone here, and we're driving downtown to the city, and he's telling me, "Okay, you remember, man, you're 21 years old." I said, "Okay, Al, I got it. I'm 17. And I get in the room, and they all tell me, the guy said, "Okay, man, so you want to hang around with us, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I would like to. I like the motorcycle stuff. I'm very interested in, joining this club." And the president at the time says, "How old are you?" And I kind of stopped, and I looked around the room, man, and I just got that case of fear, right? And I go, "I'm 17, but I'm going to be 18. And he goes, "What?" He looked at Al, and Al goes, "You told me you were 21. I go, "I know I did, because I met you in the bar, and I didn't want to lie to you, and blah, blah, blah." And so on the way home, he looked at me, he goes, "What happened there?" And I go, "Man, I was too scared to lie in that room, man. Them guys were intimidating back then, So the rule was 21, but, a year or two later, I'm still back around. And finally, when I was 19, they were like, listen, you look 30. You're going to age horribly. So let's go. Let's bring you in the club, you know. So that's why I was the youngest guy, you know. I was the youngest guy to become the president of that, you know, the Hells Angels back then. I don't know if, you know, I've been gone 20-something years. I don't know how they have it then. But back, you know, now, but back then I was by far the youngest. You know, the next guys were well into their 30s that were the presidents.
How old were you, Mel, when you were running it? How old were you?
23.
23. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
John, I actually grew a beard to look older when I was working as an architect. In that picture in front of Gold's Gym when it was in Santa Monica, you can find me, but I have a beard.
Oh, really? That group shot?
That group shot. I'm in it. I'll send you a picture in the blow up of me. But no, I was 30 years old, and again, I'm designing an Neiman Marcus store in Beverly Hills, and I look like this kid, so I grew a beard.
yeah.
And then, yeah. I mean, it's a lot about costume, and people need to put more energy into how they portray themselves or how they look.
Yeah.
These guys that are posting all these pictures on social media, I mean, it gets a bit old.
Yeah.
They need to do different things, right? They need to be more aware of how they look, because that's their image. I mean, I see guys with incredible looks that just seem to be clueless as to what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I should name names, but God, it's just you know, what do they think? Why do they think they're popular?
Yeah.
You know, it's a look, right? I mean,
It's a sell, you know. People don't want to see, just like bodybuilding. No one wants to pay for a ticket and go watch a guy that's up on stage that you could see looking like the neighbor cutting his grass. You know, people flock to that massive look. How kind of like when Rich Piana came around, and we talked about this, right? You know, I watched him compete in the Nationals in 2009, you know, and when he was first starting to use the synthol, and I'm like, oh, this guy looks like he could be a good bodybuilder. And the next year he came in and he was kind of had some tattoos, and it was like, I think he's ruining his chance here now. But he obviously seen something else that was going on. He the right time, the right place. He hit that niche, and man, you know, once them expos started, you knew where Rich was at with his booth, because the line was wrapped around itself 3 times.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It had top pro bodybuilders that had 100 guys in their line, you know, and this guy's, you know, and he tattooed himself. He did what he did. And, you know, I only got to meet Rich just a few times, you know, talk to him a little bit. But I mean,
Rich was one of my favorites, Rode. And, you know, he when he lost the overall to a middleweight in 2009, at the end of 2009, he just said, screw it. You know, I'm going to go nuts with whatever and the ink. And then he developed his own brand eventually. But no, he was, you know, he was brilliant the way he manipulated his, and he changed his hairstyle every month just to get attention. You know, he like Lee Priest or Jay Cutler used to do. Yeah. Just again, it's his little things that add up. But no,
Rich did not care about, you know, at the time, everybody's like, guy's bizarre. Well, you know what I mean? He knew the marketing. I mean, whoever, I don't know if he brought that idea to his own head or he had somebody helping him out, like, you know, put these tattoos on you. You're huge, do these videos. I mean, he told me one time, it was me, him, and Branch Warren, and we were at a expo, maybe the Arnold or something. We were like, hey, we're going to go train. Do you want to go train? We're training back. And he looked straight at us and he goes, guys, I'm not looking to train like that. He goes, I kind of do a little different thing. He goes, I go in later at nighttime when the gyms are closed. I don't think he wanted no part of training back with me and Branch like that, but he had his own gimmick that worked, you know, and a lot of guys, you know, listen, I had no beef with Rich whatsoever, but a lot of the bodybuilders did, a lot of the IFBB pros did, because, you know, he took a lot of hype away from a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
Well, but Rody, he knew how to work a booth at an expo. I mean, these guys that just, you know, they're all covered up. They're bending. They hardly look at whoever they're autographing a picture or working or taking a photo with. You know, Rich worked his booth. I mean, I don't even know when he left to pee or eat. Because he was there 8 hours. I watched him in Europe. I watched him in the States, and I don't think there's anyone I know that's worked so hard for his fans.
Yeah, true that.
You know, it's ridiculous how, I mean, you go now and they post a sign saying, you know, so-and-so will be here between the hours of 9 and 10 or 2 and 3. They're working a couple hours. You know, that's not where it's at.
No, like you said, the covered up, the hoodie, the covering all up in sweats and stuff.
Yeah.
Take it back to when you know, we were kids flipping the magazines. I didn't want to see. I wanted to see Lee Haney in a tank top and a pair of shorts, all jacked up and stuff. Yeah. That's what we were into. I was into that look. I wouldn't want to see some of these guys. And you know, as you know, this generation came in the last 7, 8, 9 years, like Ed said, sitting down, glum face. Signing, thank you. You know, no, who wants to wait for all that? Rich's booth was like a party. Yeah. Hit the crew with him. Everybody was laughing and joking. There was music going. Yeah. You know,
that's what I admired about Arnold. When he steps out of his home or whatever, he knows he's in the public domain, and he owes his fans, the attention they want. I mean, I would see Arnold almost every Sunday before his divorce at church in Santa Monica with Marie and his Maria Shriver and his 4 kids. And he would spend 20, 25 minutes on the steps of the church signing autographs or taking pictures. Mm-hmm. You could tell she wasn't happy, but Arnold knew he had to give back to his fans, which is something a lot of the guys haven't learned, like Lou Ferrigno. Doesn't, I remember so many of my house guests were disappointed meeting Lou because he was such a jerk in the gym.
Yeah.
When he met them, and Arnold is a class act, and an amazing individual, really.
Yeah.
Rich Piana really took a chance, didn't he? Like, who would have known that putting the synthol on his arms and getting all those tattoos, that it was going to take off like that? I mean, he really changed his body and just took a chance on making it, but he was right on. I mean, he did make it big.
I think he was so upset with his placing at that show. And so in Sacramento, I was there, and can you imagine? He was 275 pounds on stage at 6'1", and he lost to a middleweight.
Was that the Nationals, Ed?
No, it was more of a local show. We had a pro component too, I remember, but no, I mean, he was so upset because he was there. I think his mother was there. A lot of friends, because he grew up in Sacramento. Yeah. He was actually trained by Bill Cambro, one of the early employees of my Gold's Gym in San Francisco.
Okay.
So I probably met Rich when he was 19.
Wow. Okay.
He died at 46 or 47.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, at the end, I seen him not too long before that he passed, and you could just see everything was catching up with him. The recreational stuff, and let's be honest, and it was just not good. I could see him. Everything was a hindrance from the breathe, and he just was. You can only burn that candle like that. I mean, between the bodybuilding drugs and the recreational stuff, and he got wrapped up. He like you said, John, he created that world that took off for him, that wherever he went, he was stopping traffic and lines up the gazoo. And I mean, I can only imagine. I heard at one time he was literally making $30,000 a month with just YouTube stuff and everything that was going crazy. And, it's a lot of money for a guy that just hit it out of the blue like that, and, it just really caught up to him, he could have went on. But after he passed, that's when I watched that whole internet success of people start to go down, because you didn't have to be a pro bodybuilder no more. You could have, hit it on the internet, Larry Wheels benching all that weight, or this guy doing all this. And, and next thing you know, you're getting 1 million followers on the Instagram, and then people want you to promote them and stuff like that. But after Rich, it started tanking, and I don't think you could reproduce that again now,
Right. Yeah, and you're right the way he trained too, Mel, because he trained at Powerhouse. Yeah. The last couple of years he was living in Tampa, and I seen him train. He'd be like lifting a 15-pound dumbbell, but he'd have 2 cameras going on filming him. That's all he was concerned about was the videos.
That's it. They told me his crew that was around him said he would, be at them booths all day long. They'd go eat a meal. They'd go to that gym at night because they get a key and the gym would be closed. They'd film a bunch of content, and he edited his own stuff. He did not want nobody edited, and he knew the angles he needed edited. It was like, like Hulk said, everything they did back in the day was a gimmick. Everything. If hey, I'm not going to do this or dye this if it's not going to work for me. Hulk had a big decision when he had to go from, the yellow and red, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, Hulkamania, to switch into the NWO, the bad guy. He sat down when that idea came across the table at him. He looked at Eric Bischoff and he goes, hold on a minute. I'm making $1 million a month saying eat your prayers, say your vitamins, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, the whole 9 yards. You want me to turn heel now? This might not go good. And it took off for him even further than that. But everything's an angle and a gimmick, and Ed's right about it. When you see it and you say, hey, I can use this for this, Terry will be the first one to say, he goes, I'm by far not the toughest guy around. I was never a fighter growing up, but I had a look. I was a big kid. They taught me how to wrestle. Old man McMahon gave me my name. He was Terry Bowler first, and he came out Hulk, and then it was Hulk Hogan for the Irish, and lightning in a bottle. He hit it and went. Jay Cutler, lightning in a bottle at that time. Everybody's got that moment, and everything is a gimmick of what you're doing. And if you can understand that, it'll work. But nowadays, I just don't think that people realize that, Ed. It's like you got to be, if you're in an industry and stuff, go with it. You know what I mean? Like Ed said, grow this. If you're doing this for wrestling, you got to have a look. Something's got to attract you to this. I happen to flip through the, and watch some of these characters from wrestling, and I just look like, what is going on over here, right? Like, what's Vince doing? He doesn't have anybody that's grabbing that attention to people. Everybody's just a normal-looking guy out there, with no pop.
Wow.
I think people want sort of a fantasy escape. They want something unreal. Yeah, they want something unreal. They want something they can't see, wherever they are. I mean, in working on my book, it's fascinating to contact former house guests, and their biggest influence, I would say, in growing up were these superheroes, Superman and the early, Steve Reeves and Hercules in their earliest days, and then Superman, and then the Marvel characters. They wanted to be larger than life characters.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Something that you just can't see. And that's probably the part of the magic of Venice. You would go in and see all these freaks, these cartoon characters, really, many of them.
Yeah.
And it was different.
I got a good one for you guys. So one of the visits there with Mike when he was still in Ed's house, I'm in the gym and Mike's over by the water fountain, and I hear him yelling in that Boston accent, that thick brogue accent and stuff, and him and Flex Wheeler were having a little dispute because I believe, didn't Flex live upstairs one time, Ed?
Well, actually, Flex Wheeler and I owned a duplex, and Mike stayed in the lower half of it. Yeah.
At one time, a different house than the one I stayed in with Mike, right?
I owned several houses at one time, and that was kind of where, after you left the beach house, you went to that home.
Yeah. And so I came walking out. I was by the pro shop or somewhere, and came walking out, and they were mad about something. I think it was a girl or something, if I can remember right. And I looked in the back of, Flex behind them, and he had Paul Dillett and Charles and Rico. And I remember looking up at Paul, and I'm like, God, this guy's massive, right? He's just a mountain of a dude, And I said, but, I got to back my brother up here with whatever goes on here. And nothing escalated. They just had a little bit of a bump in heads and stuff like that. And I remember looking at him, but I remember about Paul, Paul never didn't strike me that he was in any kind of good cardiovascular shape back then, that he just seemed like he.
Rod, Paul Dillett had really bad asthma.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually, funny story with him, I took him to meet Joe Weider when he first came into California. And Joe thought he was a pro already and gave him a contract. Because I would bring people to Joe, especially amateurs, hoping he'd give them some money. Mm-hmm. And, but he wouldn't do it unless they were a pro. But somehow Paul was so big and so incredible that he just assumed he was a pro.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of good fortune, because like I remember I took Mike Francois to meet Joe when he was still an amateur, and also Dennis Newman, and Joe wouldn't give either one of them a contract, and I said, well, he said, how do you know they're going to turn pro? I said, Joe, either one of them is going to turn pro this year or next. Well, that's how exactly what happened.
Yeah.
They both turned pro, and then Joe ended up having to give them twice as much money to get them under contract because I got them other sponsors. So
yeah,
it was that Paul was the only one for whom that happened, where Joe mistakenly gave him a contract thinking he was already a pro.
Yeah, because he was
so
massive, So
he was something to see in person, man. He was unbelievable.
Man, he was scary. He was big and scary, but I don't think he was that tough, Road.
No. Like you said, he had the asthma.
Not with asthma, yeah.
Yeah, he was always breathing a little heavy, and
he would have trouble getting through a posing routine.
Yeah, with his asthma, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Now he's in Canada. I think he's returned to.
Yeah, he's got his own federation out there and seems to be doing very well. Just doesn't bother anybody. Just does his own thing, and seems to be enjoying life.
Well, legally, he can't come into the U.S. But
yeah, I did hear that. I did hear that.
What that's all about, but
same with me. I can't go to Canada. So from my old days, So still now.
Yeah. Really?
Which is okay with me. I always say, I'm not looking to get on these big, flights and go to Kuwait and Dubai. And listen, I'm comfortable. I don't need to see all that. I'll look through a history book. So kind of works to my advantage doing what I do now. I don't have to get on, Jim's not going to be able to send me to Kuwait or Dubai or nothing like that because I can't get in. And so I became good friends with Tony Doherty, and he's always like, Mel, come on. Yeah. And I said, Tony, I'm not going to take a 22-hour trip to Australia to sit in a room for 8 hours and get turned around. Like, I don't want to fly. I don't like to fly like that. And he said, I know a bunch of people over here. Tony's got some, some deep ties over there and stuff like that. He goes, let me see. And I said, you got to be honest with him. You got to let him know my past because that's going to come up when I come there, And so after a few months of him, Tony was going to fly me out and pay for the flight, get me out there for everything. After a few months of him digging, he goes, yeah, that's not going to happen. I said, I told you, them old times with the Hells Angels and what they got going on over there, that stuff doesn't leave you,
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing talking about these stories, how things have changed so much. And like you said, as time goes on, but you had Joe Weider giving out the contracts. You had all those guys at Gold's Gym, like the golden era. And then you had the magazines. You had all the magazines. So it's like all that.
Well, the magazines were the social media of the day. And people don't realize, but it's all my house guests that helped make Gold's Gym the Mecca and help make it the largest gym chain in the world, because they would do their photo shoots in the gym, and we had the stripe painted over the mirrors with the Gold's Gym name and our mottos, our mantras, and it worked. I mean, you could pick up any issue of Weider magazine or any other bodybuilding magazine and see dozens of pages of Gold's Gym in there that we didn't pay for.
Yeah.
And that was back in the day when a full page ad in Weider's magazine cost $35,000. Wow. But just so think of all of, people thought Joe Weider owned Gold's Gym at one point, I remember.
Yeah.
Because there was so much coverage. But that way, we were very welcoming to the photographers, and I actually sent house guests home if they shot at World Gym or Powerhouse. I said, you don't get it. I'm sorry, but you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I was insistent on that, and no, that was how we didn't spend that much on advertising.
Yeah, you didn't need to. Like you said, you didn't need to. You had all the best top guys there training there. Everybody wanted to shoot them guys in the magazine. So you're right. You turn a magazine back in them days, you always seen the
and Rod, I just was looking again for my book, and Shape Magazine and Muscle and Fitness were in the top two. They were two of the top 10 magazines in America back in that era, in the 80s and early 90s.
Wow.
Top 10. But they did several million a month. The Weider magazines, they had 1.7 million copies a month.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And they went all over the world. So Gold's Gym became known in other parts of the world. And that actually helped us with our trademark issues because we could prove that we were known in that country long before whoever illegally tried to register our mark.
Oh,
We also then shipped clothing to those countries. So right now there are 100 Gold's Gyms in Japan and 100 in India. Thanks to that kind of early coverage.
Yeah. And there's not many left in the States, right, Ed, now? I mean, there's not.
Well, there are 680 Gold's Gyms right now and 400 are overseas. So there are more overseas than there are in the U.S.
Yeah.
There are 280 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, Ed, you're supposed to meet with the current owners of Gold's, right? Coming up.
Right. I'm going to meet with them in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping I can help them, or I want to know what I can do to help them.
Okay. What do you?
I have lots of.
Suggest to them?
Pardon me?
What are you going to suggest to them? What would?
Well, I'm not going to suggest anything because I want to know. I want them to tell me what they want to do. I want to know how I can help them, and
Okay.
it's not for me to suggest. I'm assuming they have their own game plan. I want to hear it and see how I could help.
Yeah. Okay.
The owner said he was inspired by Gold's Gym Venice when he opened his first gym in 1997, and he's now the largest gym chain in Europe, called
Right.
McFit.
Because a German gym company bought it, right?
Right.
Okay.
A German company, yeah, that owns half a dozen different kinds of gym chains.
Okay. Well, that's good that he was inspired by the original, by the Gold's Gyms back then. So maybe he's got the heart for it,
I think he certainly has more passion than the Texas owner had. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to them during the 16 years they owned Gold's Gym.
No kidding.
They never reached out to me once.
Jeez, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, they dwindled down. I mean, the gym that I bought out here, was a Gold's Gym back in the day. 15 years. Yeah, that Second Chance, John, was a Gold's. And then them owners that had it, they had one in Orlando. They had 3 of them. And then they just couldn't get along with the people in the franchise. They became expensive for them, so they dropped it. They called it Achieve. And then when I bought it from them, I changed it to Second Chance,
Yeah.
The new owner kept it at Second Chance,
Okay.
They raised the royalties to 7% of gross revenue, which just doesn't work. That's what McDonald's or the fast food chains charge, and for those people it's worth it, but certainly not for a gym.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Mel, can you talk about that project you got coming up too?
Yeah. So fill that in on it. So a couple years ago, I think we'll be at 2 years now in Thanksgiving. A couple years ago. So Ed, for the last probably 10, 12 years, I've been getting different offers, book deals, nothing I was interested in. I never wanted to go do a book and go on a book signing. And I'm just like, it's nothing I was interested in. And anyways, these guys from New York that wanted to do the book, and they made it glitterful, $200,000 signing bonus. You get a buck a book, $1.50 a book, 100, million copies of bestseller. But they wanted all the dirt, the redemption story of me, of where I'm at now and my walk with the Lord and stuff. They didn't care about that. They wanted the biker stuff, and they wanted to make it a Sons of Anarchy thing. So I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Well, about 2 years ago, I get a call from A&E, and they say, hey, we'd really like to do a reality show with you. And I said, oh yeah. I said, what are you thinking? And they said, well, the paranormal's big right now. We could see you ghost hunting and stuff. And this is funny because I'm driving across Alligator Alley here in Florida to go to the National because it's Thanksgiving.
Right.
So it's the National's right before Thanksgiving. So I'm in my car. So I got some time, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like thinking, and we're talking about this paranormal thing. And in the car, I'm like this, right? So I said, well, and he goes, well, we got another project. We got an ex-mobster from New York that spent 20 years in prison. We're going to have him looking for Al Capone's money. And I'm like, geez, Geraldo did that back in our day and found nothing in there, right? Like a hammer or something, right? So I go, yeah. He goes, well, you don't sound too interested in none of this, Mel. And I go, well, it just, I don't understand it. I don't know this life, He goes, what would something that would interest you? What would be interesting to you? And I said, well, my gym Second Chance. I'm all about the kids, my story. If I speak in the schools, I'm all about that second chance. I think that would be great, something with the youth, And he goes like this. He goes, well, saving the world ain't big right now. It doesn't sell. He goes, so I go, well, on that note, brother, we're good, So how it came about, I happened to call Hulk up, I'm said to Terry, hey, I just got this call. And he starts laughing. And he said, man, you need to call Rock. You need to call Dwayne. And I said, Terry, I don't really know Dwayne like that. I mean, me and you are 30-year friends. I've only known him for a few years. I would never reach out to him and do that. He goes, man, I'm telling you, Mel, he's $7 production. It's hot. If anybody could tell your story. And so after a couple of days, he talked me into it. And I had Dwayne's number, threw him a text and said, hey, listen, Dwayne, I'm looking for a little advice. And he called me on the phone. He goes, Mel, what do you got going on? I said, well, this is what's been going on for me for the last 10, 12 years. And not interested in a book. A&E called me, and he was like, no. He's like, listen, with all due respect to our A&E family, because we work with them, he goes, but I can't see you doing a reality show, ghost hunting or looking for Al Capone money. And I said, right. He said, well, why don't you let me hook you up with my team with $7? I would love to be able to tell your story and tell it the right way. Of your story of, of course, we got to tell the A to tell the Z. He goes, but your story of redemption, your story of how you became friends with the federal agent that took you down after all them years and where you're at now and the inspiration you are to so many, including myself. Your story's amazing. So that's how that project started. And we've been working on things for the last, going on 2 years about, getting all the information to the team, getting the right people in place and the whole 9 yards. So, without letting too much out now. So the docuseries things got big. You guys seen the Tiger King, that thing took off for the docuseries are a thing of the present now. So, the scripted world is where we're really looking at, where somebody plays me and somebody plays the parts, like a Sons or something like that. That's what they call the scripted world. But since the docuseries are hot, that's what we're working on right now. The docu-series part of it, to where there'd be live people like John. You go way back with me. Ed goes way back with me. That's what they want. They want list of people that I'm doing, and so that's what I've been working on. I've been working on my lists of all the people that have known me from way back in the day to now, to who's seen the old road days, who's seen and of course, you got a lot of the celebrities, all the wrestlers that know me, all the bodybuilders that know me. So, like Rock said to me one day on the phone, he goes, when we were talking about this, he goes, Mel, this what better than we got the golden goose in front of us? He goes, you've walked through all these different arenas, so to say, in life. He goes, you're the Forrest Gump of life. And when he said that to me, I had to stop for a minute. I go, was that a compliment or the Forrest Gump? So that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's what's very close to happening. We're looking for the right documentary guy to do this and stuff. And since Hollywood kind of is COVID shut it down and stuff like that, and the scripted thing is on the back burner for right this now, the docuseries seemed like it was a good fit of real people telling the story. Guys like Ed, yourself, John, you come back. So I've been making a list of everybody from the rise of where I came into, my reign, the raids with the ATF, you got the agents in there. So we're breaking it down like that. And I think it's going to be pretty cool because, now that I am on the phone with the team, with the $7 guys, and they're dragging all this old stuff out of me that you kind of forget, you have the memories, but they're not fresh in your head. It's going back, all these years. Now that we're talking about it, I'm like, wow, what a lifestyle, what a run it was. I mean, I ventured into everywhere. I could, like Ed said, I could have been a pro wrestler. I could have been an actor on TV. I could have been a pro bodybuilder. I could have. And I was there. My focus was on the club. So, so that is pretty cool to be working with these guys and having, Dwayne's vision of it and, working hand in hand. And, ultimately I have the very say of it. And I like the part where they were like, it's about your redemption, and we love your walk, your faith walk. It touches a lot of people, because like I said, anybody that rode a motorcycle or was in the mob or gangsters or street gangs, everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody could write something about it. But, I guess mine's a little different because of the path that I took and where I am with my faith. And You know, and I always give that back out. In the podcast you see I talk about, we go into a lot of it with the faith and what brought me to that and stuff like that. So pretty cool stuff happening, you know.
It is. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's been cool to see, you know.
Well, we could talk about when we did our 10 sets of squats with 405, Mel. Remember that?
And John used to always say, and I was young, you know, and then we training in the gym, and like I said, we had a Gold's Gym and stuff like that. And John said, okay, I got this thing, man. I've been doing some research, and we're going to do 10 sets of squats. And what would we do, John? 405 and reps. And then, you know, I remember one time I had like one set left, and I go, I'm done. I'm done. And they had all the cardio stuff on the main floor. It wasn't separated like your goals upstairs. It was like right around all the weights and stuff. I remember telling John, I'm done, John. I was thrown up in the garbage can, and all the ladies were on the bikes at the time, and I got my head in the garbage can thrown up. And he was, you can't quit, Mel. You're at the finish line. You got one set left. And I'm like,
Well, when we bought Gold's Gym, there were no bikes in the gym.
None, huh?
No cardio, no.
Yeah.
Bikes in the gym might as well have been snakes in the gym.
Yeah, back then, right? Yeah.
In fact, didn't your bodyguards have to bench 500?
Right. Yeah. So
I think you did 660 in the gym.
I got strong. I was strong. And training with John and doing all the old school movements and stuff. I was strong. I mean, I tore my pec later in life, but I mean, I was strong bencher, strong deadlifter. I remember John did a podcast and they were talking about, and he said, Mel didn't get them back in traps like that from not moving some weights. You know, we lift, you know, and
you need to know as you get older to decrease the amount of weight you lift, right?
Oh yeah. I do a lot of functional training now though. But them were the good old days when people trained. You know, it's funny, Ed, because now I see running the industry and I get to meet all these guys, and God rest his soul, I got very tight with Dallas, you know, and he used to call me his big brother and stuff. Take him out.
I got Dallas started in bodybuilding.
Did you really? Huh?
Yeah, he was a gym owner in Chattanooga. Called me up and said, Ed, you got to meet this guy. And he was doing tough man contests to make a living. I said, you know, you should be competing. You should be bodybuilding. Yeah.
He had the genetics. He could eat. He had the perfect triangle. I call it the Bermuda Triangle to be, you know, the best. And but I see these guys now. I see these guys that, you know, they want to be pro bodybuilders. They're training. They're doing local shows and stuff. But the training just is not the same. You're not nobody, you know, there's some are, you know, you got these young kids that Nick Walker that just turned pro out of Jersey. He's got to be training old school crazy. He's got that density and thickness. I see these guys at the gym and I'm like, man, you're missing the whole part of trying to bodybuild and build that great thick physique. Training, you know, they do a set and they're setting their phone up and they're more worried about the social media stuff than they are of the training. And nobody takes it like the old days where you trained and you went home and ate and you might come back and train again later. I remember Matarazzo not even prepping for shows. He's like, Rode, it's, you know, 9 o'clock. Let's get to Golds. You know, okay, what do you want to do tonight? Let's do some calves and some abs. Gotcha, Mike, and we go. And you know, I don't see a lot of that passion no more. You know, hence why I think you see least men bodybuilders now. You know, the sport where you're seeing everybody, you know, men's physique and of course the women bikini and stuff like that. But you know, I think you get guys that look in that audience and say, man, we know what it takes, and maybe they don't want to have to go on the gear but I think a lot of people just don't want to train like that, you know?
No. Yeah, the phone thing kills me, Mel. I sound like a grumpy old man, you know, looking at everybody, but all these guys are on their phones and I'm like, you guys are in your early 20s and you're lifting like 10-pound dumbbells and you're on your phone and you got your partner filming you. I'm like, you're wasting the best years of your life. You know, this is when you could really train heavy and get big. It's just, it drives me nuts.
I was noted back in the day at USA and Golds and stuff like that, the old hardcore gyms. And back in the 90s, the phones weren't like they were now. You had a phone back then, you know, you paid $700 a month for the phone bill or whatever it was back then, the big brick phones. I dropped more dumbbells on people's phones for bringing them on the gym floor, bringing them out as our partner. And people would say, oh, you're going to train with John and Mel? Don't bring that phone back there. You'll lose it. don't bring it back there. I'd see fall, the guy put it on the ground or the bench and stuff like that. I'd go take a 20-pound dumbbell and let it go right over the top. We didn't talk. Now it's great. Now I'm the dude in there. Now I just put my headphones in and I do my set. I might throw a text out. Now I'm that guy. I just would train easy. I laugh at John because he's still doing all that old school stuff. And I said, John, I can't do it these days. I'm just, my body bothers me,
Yeah. And Ed, Mel was a great training partner. He'd always be rested. He'd be at the gym before I was. He'd train heavy, just like a true bodybuilder.
Yeah. That was my focus for the day. Even when I was running the club, everybody knew I was going to train. And for a while, I'd have to bring a security team with me. I had to train because, we were at war with the Outlaws back in the day, and they were trying to knock my head off, and they knew where I was training every day. Because one thing I didn't do, John, is I didn't stay home. I was out visual. I was at the gym every day. I was at the clubs every night. If you wanted to get me, you had a good chance of getting me because I was out. I wasn't sitting at home. And so finally the guys were like, man, we gotta come there with you because you can't be on a bench or doing bent over rows and these guys come storming in the place. And I always had guns in the gym bag, but then it got to be where, okay, I'll let you guys come on and hang out and be my eyes and ears for me while I'm training with John and the guys,
Bro, I'll never forget when Mike Matarazzo, and this was before 9/11, but when he came to visit me in my house, he said, Ed, where do you want me to put my guns? And I think he had 6 in his bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never had any signs saying beware the dog in my house. It was, beware my house guests.
Yeah. And Mike was good. He was good with his hands. He was, a boxer back in the day. Yeah. So, that East Coast tough kid.
I heard he knocked a few people out.
Oh, I could imagine, I could imagine.
All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up here. I want to thank you both for your time. Ed Connors, thanks again for joining us. And we got to share some more stories of all the, for helping Mel and all the other people you helped. And Ed, good luck with your meeting with Gold's Gym, the owners there. I hope you can turn things off for those guys.
Ed, will we see you at the Olympia possibly if everything goes good with the Olympia in December and it rolls off still? Are you going to be there?
Yeah, that's my plan. Actually, I sent a message to the website and asked if the expo was still on, and they said it is. So I plan to be there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's actually not a bad time. Vegas is still not really that open yet, but no, it was a great time. I'm excited to see what the new people can do.
Yeah, a lot of passion out of Jake Woods. A lot of passion from him. And
it's a real theater. It's seats 7,000, and it's amphitheater seating, so it works better than the big arena. Yeah.
At the Planet Hollywood, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I know they were worried about if there was going to be an expo. Shit, they were worried about if there was even going to be spectators because, at the Arnold that I was at this year, there wasn't any for the pre-judging stuff. It was the weirdest thing because you had the judges. Then I sit right back there, and then with Jim, and then behind us is the press pit and stuff. Well, we were clapping for the guys because there was no noise. These guys were up there on stage with not one single person really in the audience besides the workers, So then at night they let certain individuals in or, a couple of family members.
I thought I really felt bad for the exhibitors because they had maybe a couple of days notice, so people lost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody did on that one. Yeah. Tony Doherty over there in Australia because they shut him down right after that. The money that these guys lost on the promotion side too, and the exhibitors was crazy. But
it's not all about the money. I don't see the death toll to me is nothing. 40 years ago, John, I opened my first gym in San Francisco. It was the AIDS era, and people talked about the mist. When my former employees, we talked about how we had to clean the gym because people thought if you sat on a bike, even if for somebody who had AIDS, you'd get sick.
Yeah.
But, do you know how many people have died from AIDS in the last 40 years?
Not many, right, Ed?
32 million.
Oh, there has been that many. Oh,
32 million people have died. 40 million, according to Google, and 40 million people are living through it. And so far, we've only, I think we reached 1 million worldwide dead from this coronavirus.
Yeah.
Well, a population of 7 or 8 billion, whatever the world's at. I mean, that's nothing.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's like we said, our hospitals out here, nobody's in them. That's why our governor's a realist. And he's like, hey, listen, we're not keeping everything shut down. My mother-in-law runs one of the biggest hospitals out here, and there ain't a person in there with a sniffle from it. And, same with Tampa. I know a lady at Tampa. She goes, is there a person, are they on the floors of the intensive care unit? She goes, yes, but they were counting everybody. So if a guy had a bypass and he was in there on the floor, he was in the intensive care unit on the COVID ward. So they were counting every single person that ever had anything done to him. So I'm with you, Ed. Open it up. Let's get moving again and get this world back going. And I'm all for that.
Yeah, Mel, you were talking about when you were at the Arnold and you were the only ones clapping. I watched on TV last night. They had the Stanley Cup, and the Tampa Bay Lightning won. And it was so weird watching these guys holding up the Stanley Cup, and there's nobody in the audience. Like their team members are clapping for them. There's nobody there. It was so disheartening,
So crazy. The wrestlers are in the Orlando arena. They got cardboard cutouts for faces, and it's just
crazy.
Crazy times. We'll have some laughs and jokes at the Olympia, of course, like we always do, and I'm always looking forward to seeing you there. And John, you too. I get to see you a lot more here since we're living in each other's backyards now. But it was great kicking the stories with you. I knew this was going to be a good one once we got on here to tell some old school stories.
Absolutely. Well, Mel, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It was great finally having you on the show, buddy. And I wish you the best of luck with that rock thing, the docudrama. And I'm proud of where you've come, man, because we've known each other for all these years, and it's amazing to watch where you've come in your life. It's really amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys, man. My love to you guys both.
All right, buddy.
Thank you. And I echo John's sentiment, and good luck. And The Rock is a class act, so I'm sure you're in good hands.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Means a lot coming from you guys. All right, guys. Have a good afternoon. I'll see you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.